Hey Adrian, how's it going? So I think, yeah, big. I've not looked at the video yet, obviously, but it sounds like bench is really cooking along very, very nicely. Um, yeah, so looking forward to checking that out, and well done for not overshooting and keeping that under control. It will definitely pay off to take a more measured approach. With this, like, there's a couple of things, like a consistent theme with these like technical changes is, um, I think it can be a little tricky. It sounds like you're kind of like varying what you're doing quite a bit, even within a session. And I think that's generally okay, but obviously there's a danger that you get lost in the source with like trying to spin too many plates and changing too many variables at the same time, right? Um, because you can imagine a world where if you were to view the whole system as a series of chunks, and then if you were trying to tweak each of the chunks simultaneously, then you end up sort of like messing up your optimization, right? Whereas if you were to only vary one of the bits at a go in one go, then you get to really focus on optimizing and perfecting that bit, and learning about what really works with that one specific thing. So I think just bear that in mind a little bit. I don't know exactly your process in your session, but just bear that in mind of like sometimes changing too much stuff in one go um, can just make the optimization intractable basically. Um, I think particularly with the deadlifts, I think yeah, I think what your this is a good idea. Exhale at the top. Ultimately, a lot of the shortcut that becomes available to you and everybody with this stuff is just being able to feel the position of a good of a well positioned rib cage and hips and all of this stuff, and then being able to kind of like jump straight to that rather than having to go through the whole like exhale sequence and blah blah blah. But for you right now, um, that's not like a default position for you. So it's good practice to keep doing that, but also there's almost certainly in fact there's definitely a bit of like rib cage position reshaping that needs to happen before it becomes really super comfortable, and like strengthening of those muscles of the exhale, to allow you to even have access to the right position in the first place. So for now, it's like you just have to kind of do that work for like a few more weeks to allow that to really bed in, and then you can start hopefully like really figuring out the deep extent of this, and then being able to quicken things up. With the breathing thing, I think like for a lot of people there's this lesson as well. Like, so yes, you're right, like in general improving the efficiency of the breathing is absolutely what you need to do, but for a lot of people there's one of the things that kind of falls out of this as a learning is that they were taking too deep of a breath in the first place anyway. And this is definitely what you'll find is that trying to take a large volume of air in will mean that you are defaulting to the bad strategy for inhalation, right? So you'll use all of the pushing the lower ribs forwards and all this stuff, because those ribs are the bits that can readily expand already. So you'll default to using that old pattern if you're trying to get this large amount of air in. So I think again, it's a case of balancing like not taking in too much air with like also the ability to do a few reps with minimal breathing, and then maybe taking a break, taking a more regular breath, and then refining the position, the brace pattern, and then going again, if that makes sense. So, if you were to do a set of 10 reps, it would be quite hard to not stop at some point and like take some proper breaths. But what you'll find is that as you get better at this in general, you'll be able to get higher volume of air in with a better breathing pattern that'll throw you out less from this more optimal position. So again, this is just one of those things that just takes time, and it's annoyingly another thing where it's hard to feel the improvement until it's happened. So patience basically is what I'm advocating for here. But yeah, let's take a look at the videos. So yeah, these now look really, really good. Really, really nice. Something that I would just try to do a little bit here, so it looks like your kind of lockout is a tiny bit soft, is trying to make sure that you can feel your glutes at the top of the rep, like squeeze them a little bit, and then allow them to kind of feel like they're lengthening on the way back. That will really fatigue your glutes, but it should help them kind of like figure out this like lengthening, contracting maximally pattern throughout the rep. But I'm much, much happier about the control here. It looks really, really good. Still think you're going a tiny bit too low. Like I think there's a bit of like lower back rounding here that's happening. I think still probably stopping a couple of few inches higher is where you want to be. And again, I would also encourage you to think about this head positioning piece of like trying to make sure that your your head is in line with your spine, because that'll also help expose this bad pattern through your back. So by doing this, you're kind of like helping your lower back stay a bit more extended, right? But like artificially. So we might find that if you keep your head neutral, you'll really feel this position where you begin to lose your lower back with a bit more detail. Yeah, again, definitely massive improvement here to the general pattern. Like honestly, this looks like almost that you've fixed the biggest chunk of the sway back squat pattern. So that's really awesome. But definitely still a lot of breathing into your lower ribs here, rather than like being able to expand your whole rib cage, which is just inevitable. Like your ability to breathe into your back rib cage is going to be absolutely shit at the moment. The same thing with your upper ribs. So certainly when you're inhaling, if you try to inhale through your nose as much as possible, that's better. That like it's actually even it cues the right stuff even more than like trying to this thing you're mentioning of like inhaling through a straw. It just helps like your these like slightly more resistant to expansion parts of the rib cage to actually relax and open up, rather than just using your body's default of like lower ribs. Yeah, super good, super good. I mean, there's definitely a big PB coming here. But again, let's just wait for it to happen. Alright, this is definitely where we were struggling. Let's have a little bit of a look here. So the other thing to bear in mind here, right, is that this bar is whippy as fuck. So that is definitely going to be throwing you off a little bit here too. I wonder, Adrian, if something else you should try, similar to the RDLs, right, is if you should try to keep your head a bit more in line with your spine. Because I bet, right, that as you lift your head up, it's going to be much harder to keep your lower ribs down. But yeah, I think honestly the amount that this bar is going to be whipping around, I don't know if like much of the technical focus you're trying to achieve here is going to be even remotely possible. Um, it's very difficult for me to feed back on this as well because of the, you know, this is just necessarily a very different pattern of the floor. It doesn't look really that bad, honestly. Something you could also try is like, you know, in fact, I would encourage you to do this, is with like, you know, 70 or 60 or whatever, and maybe even 100 kilos, is just doing like a couple of reps of RDLs, basically, to kind of like really prime this hip back position with like really good bracing. Good, 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 good. Yeah, nice. Cool. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, so like in an ideal world, just to kind of like reiterate this point, we, as you're breathing, you be able to get a lot of expansion up here, and then expansion through here as well. Like a little bit less underneath where the bar is, obviously, because that's getting squashed. But we should be able to see, as you breathe, those bits of your back and front move and expand. But yeah, generally this is definitely better. There's a little bit of this rounding happening still, but it's not anywhere near as bad. We also should start to notice, by the way, that we get a little bit more glute development as this pattern gets better and better and better, because you should be able to then get more length through your glutes. Super easy. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I think lots of positives. I think things are definitely moving in the right direction. Just in terms of like this pattern that we're trying to like grow and improve with the bracing and with the squat positioning and the deadlift positioning, it will just take some time, even if you're doing everything right. But I think you're making honestly really good progress. Like it's very obvious to me that things are getting much better. All right, Jen. Well, yeah, thanks for the videos, and I will see you next week.